Hello and welcome. As you can see, we have one of our most anticipated quarterly updates that we get to do, which I always look so forward to, a conversation with my dear friend Pam. I would love for you guys, if you have not yet met Pam, you've been missing out. Pam is one of my favorite people on YouTube. She is the most loved astrologer on YouTube, I'm sure of it. And she comes to us every month. She brings and she focuses on the lunar cycles and talks about those beautiful videos, always wearing smashing outfits with these gorgeous collars and her lovely pillows behind her. Sharing deep wisdom in such a reassuring and gentle way. And it's just so fun to have these conversations together. It's really, I just see it as like my own chance to get to talk to Pam. So, so anyways, with that introduction, after this last message last Friday, Pam was inspired to, of course, take a look at the astrology. So the angel specifically said we might be seeing the Earth rift within the next 12, or they said anniversary. So and there was some confusion. Were they talking about like within this calendar year, or were they talking about the next 12 months? So Pam, welcome back to my channel and back to your channel. I'm so delighted to have you with us again and to talk about this. And you have looked at the astrology and have some guidance to share. So we are excited to hear it.
Yeah, I love the conversations and the sharings we have, and truly, you are so incredibly gifted with what you do, and your work is just really at such a high bar. It's just absolutely beautiful. So I follow your angel messages diligently and share them, and the angels have just given us so many clear messages and very practical and very specific. So love them all. But the one last Friday, because when we've just been saying this kind of offline, when we had our first conversation recorded, and Anne was asking me about this, when is it going to happen? Because that's why people go to astrologers. When's it going to happen? I felt, and I think I said, it was most likely to be 25 or 26, probably 26.
Yeah.
So this 12 months has given me a real point of focus, and boy, is there a lot happening. And I totally want to echo with what you say about having compassion. And you organize some beautiful healings, beautiful meditations. You do amazing work in the world to soften all of the tough stuff. And I organized or had the idea of nightly meditations, free 15-minute meditation. People are doing this all over the world. I think we are all helping to reduce the damage when we have earthquakes. Because I mean, the big 8.8 magnitude earthquake we just had in Russia,
Yeah.
there were virtually no casualties because it was
Which I
away
love.
from
Wow.
densely populated areas, and then a whole series of six pluses magnitude following that, and again all away from populated areas.
Yeah,
So we can
incredible.
do a lot through our healings, through our meditations, to minimize the damage, recognizing that Gaia has to release that tension.
Exactly. Yeah, I so agree. And I love and thank you so much for bringing that up about that. Yeah, and it's wonderful because it's like that's a huge, I mean it was a huge earthquake, tsunamis, and yeah, it's we imagine given that it's amazing. And so do we want to say did we help? You know, I know you do your regular. He said I did my earth healing. Like gosh, it would be amazing, but whether or not it did help, let's keep doing it. Let's keep doing
it,
it, you
it,
know.
it can only help,
Soften.
it can't
Yeah.
make things worse. It can only help. So
Yeah.
so thank you for that super clear angel message last Friday. I listened to them absolutely diligently. So, and I just wanted to sort of set the context of this before I get into the astrology of the next 12 months, looking at the peaks, because we are really at the end of some huge cycles. We're at the end of a 12,000 year descending Yuga cycle. We're at the end of Kali Yuga, the age of darkness. The great Indian scholar and author Bibhu Dev Misra said that was on the 21st of March this year, the Aries equinox. Um, we know that the Earth moves through the galactic current sheet every 12,000 years, which we're doing right now, and through the photon belt, this very high frequency energy. There were so many ancient indigenous prophecies of the Hopi and the Quero and the Maya about this time. And the end of the Mayan calendar, you might remember there was a huge flurry at the end of 2020. It was the end of the long count, which was supposed to be 21st of December, the Capricorn solstice 2020. And astrologically, that's when we had a really big, it was called the Great Conjunction of Jupiter and Saturn, which will run for, it starts a whole new, oh, I don't want to get into too much astrology, but it starts a whole new series of conjunctions between Jupiter and Saturn for about the next 200 years.
Yeah.
And they tend to set up every 20 years the kind of background zeitgeist of,
Yes.
of what we're going to be experiencing. We are in the peak of solar cycle 25 in 2025 and 2026. So we have a lot of solar flare activity. And what Stephen Burns is finding, he's doing a lot of research on this, because I kind of suggested to him he'd be the perfect person to link solar activity with seismic activity and astrology. So he's doing a lot of work on this. But what he found is we have a flurry of solar flares. The earthquakes don't happen then. It's when it goes quiet with the solar activity that the earthquakes tend to happen, which is exactly what's just happened with the 8.8. And
Oh,
so
wow.
he feels the Earth is loaded up with these solar flares, and then
That makes sense. Yeah. That makes a ton of sense. That matches my understanding of healing, is that healing takes energy, that it takes a ton of, so in some of my healing processes with the angels, they will go through, like, especially if they're trying to increase our connection. So for example, if they're trying to increase our connection to source or to our higher self or to earth, they will go through a process of freeing up energy first. And they'll do that through a variety. Maybe it'll be releasing old expectations or releasing places where we've been sending energy. They will release that energy and then use that energy to help move us into that higher, whatever it is, connection that we're trying to form. But so just the idea that healing takes energy makes sense, that it's going to pump it up, pump it up, pump it up, and then boom. Yeah. Wow.
Fascinating. So, the Earth has to go through her labor pains.
Yes. Yeah.
This rebirth for sure. And what's remarkable astrologically is that all of the outer planets are changing signs within a period of 18 months, from November 2024 until April 2026. And that is kind of crazy in terms of the astronomy and the maths, because they all have different orbital periods. Saturn has 29.5-year orbital period, Uranus 84 years, Neptune 165, Pluto 248. So for all of them to be changing signs over that 18-month period is remarkable. And that isn't even to include all the dwarf planets. So that's remarkable.
That literally gives me the visual of a Rubik's Cube, like trying to get all the sides to line up at the same, like it's how many combinations you have to go through to get the whole thing to turn, back to the same zero starting point. Amazing.
Exactly that. So I filmed a video called The Big Picture, looking at 2025 to 2027, because I noticed a year or two back that what was coming up was a really completely unique astrological configuration, which we have never had before, we believe, in history. And that is because these outer planets are changing signs. So just to make it really easy for people who don't understand the Hebrew, the symbols.
Yes, wonderful. Thank you. I love pictures.
Yeah, okay, so done this. So I hope you can see.
Yes.
That Pluto is here.
Okay.
And it's in a, I'll do it this way, and it's in a 120-degree angle to Uranus, plus a dwarf planet Sedna, and they are kind of equidistant in 60-degree angles to Saturn and Neptune.
Got it. Okay.
Okay,
Pluto, so that's powerful. Pluto, Uranus, and then Saturn, Neptune. So, okay. So walk us through it, Pam. That sounds intense.
So absolute, this packs a punch. So we last had I believe it was the last time, a conjunction between Pluto, Uranus, and Neptune, which was the seed point for all of this, in 577 BC.
Okay.
And that was the time we had Pythagoras and Buddha, who were some of the earliest great thinkers who were starting to talk about consciousness and our divinity.
Yeah. Wow.
That was the seed point. And I've talked in other videos about the seed point between each of those planetary combinations as well. But essentially, this is a blossoming. This is a blossoming of all the previous seed points.
Oh,
and
wow.
with Saturn Neptune at zero varies is pure potential, because it's the very first degree of the zodiac. I call it the creator degree, and is pure potentiality for what we are going to create.
So,
Now,
oh my gosh, so I have to say about that, so, everyone is saying this is the period of the rise of the divine feminine, right? That we've been in this period of hyper, where we've been overexpressed in our masculine, each of us, we all have divine masculine, divine feminine. We've been overexpressed into the masculine. This is the rise of the divine feminine, channeling the mother of creation. She says that her energy is that infinite potential, the zero starting point. Like that is her energy. That is what we are bringing back. That's so amazing to see it represented in astrology, but it is literally, she talks about, and this has come through in a bunch of the channelings recently, that this idea that we are so used to moving through something, and we get to the end and we never allow ourselves the place of stillness. We go directly from one thing to a new beginning. So for example, if you're going to get a new job, we wait till the next job is lined up, and then we leapfrog from one job to the next. And when we do that, we are creating our future based on our past, is that we never give ourselves the opportunity to move to the moment of integration and the place of stillness. And when we get there, where we literally, when we're in that zero point, is in the moment where we set everything down and we only bring our current self, our highest evolved self of who we are right this moment, not our 12-year-old self and our 2-year-old self and all of our baggage, right? Which is what we're doing when we're still in the middle of our last process. When we allow ourselves to get to this place, which you're identifying, if we sit in that stillness, something new bubbles up. That is something brand new, born out of the current moment. It's the only way we can create a new reality. And so
correct.
this is why, like, this is why this is the, why do we need the divine feminine right now, is because this is the way that we create something new. Amazing, isn't it? Amazing how,
Amazing. And it's like 0 point.
yes, yeah.
And this last happened at Zero Varies in 4361 BC. So that's almost 6,000 years ago. And I want to credit my very good friend Heather Ensworth for being able to go back all that way in her software to find that. So the last time that bit happened, thank you, Heather, was almost 6,000 years ago, but not when it was at the midpoint of Pluto and Uranus. And these are all pretty much exact.
Okay. Oh my gosh.
Okay. So they are at their most exact because the geometry gives potency. The
Okay.
more exact the geometry, the more powerful it is. So this month in August, this configuration is at its closest point that it will be this year. The closest it gets ever is July the 18th next year. Okay, but we'll feel it for the whole of July. But it's operational all the way through now. From now, all the way through. But it is completely unique. And usually with astrology, we go back, 20 years, 100 years, whatever, and look at the previous cycle. But this is completely unique, we believe. Nobody's been able to disprove that statement so far. So this is a big deal. And so what we're looking at, whether we're looking at the astronomy, the cosmology, the prophecies, whatever, the solar activity, it appears to be a whole series of convergences of cycles.
Okay.
And I just want to put 3 caveats on anything I'm going to say here, which is, firstly, astrology is a language of mathematical probability.
Yes.
It's not certainty. So therefore, it's only 50% of the picture. Because the second caveat is our collective consciousness weaves with the astrology to create the event.
Okay.
Yes, so that's why astrology isn't 100%. It's only about 50% of the picture because, we as a collective consciousness are weaving it together. And also, I think it's important to say, and I really feel this in my bones, that we are not all going to evolve at the same time or at the same rate. We're going to go in waves.
Yes, that absolutely aligns with what I've heard from the angels as well. That it is, and as a matter of fact, that there are those of us who are meant to go first and turn around and help the others. That it is, yeah.
You
Which
talked
is,
about that, and lending a hand to the next level down.
yeah.
So, but we are in the mush of the chrysalis now, and this is a one-way process. You can't stuff the butterfly back into the caterpillar. It's a one-way process. So what I'm going to be sharing here are the probability peaks, as I see them, of the astrology. So if we're looking at, the Earth shift, that could happen at any of these probability peaks that I'm talking about, that I'm going to identify. Okay, so these are things, but again, it depends on our collective consciousness. And I just want to also sort of reference other people who are all talking about the new human. I mean, Lee Harris is talking about the new human, Richard Rudd in his, tome Gene Keys. he is saying that, you know, his key gene key, the most important one, is the one about the dragonfly, gene key 55. That the water nymph, which is a kind of grey predator which lives underwater, just chooses, ping, today is the day. I'm going to go through a complete change of state, a metamorphosis into a dragonfly. So it climbs up a stalk of grass and it pumps all the water from its water nymph body by a kind of hydraulic method into the wings to spread out the wings of the dragonfly to enable the dragonfly to fly.
Oh my
From that
God.
point on, the dragonfly never goes back to the water. She's a creature of the air and she's got complete freedom. So it's the gene key of freedom, actually. But when I was talking to him, and again, that's on my channel, he said on January the 30th this year, in his system, which I don't understand, Pluto entered gate 41, and that triggered an amino acid called methionine, which stimulates DNA.
Okay.
And he said that was going to begin a whole series of genetic mutations for all species on Earth. And
Hmm.
he was seeing the completion, not of our evolution, I mean, that will go on forever and ever and ever,
Yeah.
but he
Yeah.
was seeing, as I understand it, the completion of that kind of ignition point of metamorphosis as 2027.
At 2027?
Yeah, so we're all in this same ball game of, you know, because that the configuration I've just shown will still be operational in 2027.
Yes. Okay. Oh my
It,
gosh. And so this would be, so to get clear, this would be the where we would fly the wings and become the new human, or this would be the
yes,
beginning or the ending of that process, or the process happens in a moment.
it's starting, I believe. It was interesting. I was listening to some, I had a conversation with Kelly Kolodny last week, who channels Archangel Raphael. And Archangel Raphael was saying the beginning of the gestation of the new human, this new galactic being, began on 21st of March this year, which was when the Kali Yuga was supposed to end, exactly the same day. And we're
Okay.
going through a series of trimesters, and in Archangel Raphael's view, the new galactic being, and I don't think he's just talking about babies, I think he's talking about adults who are changing their biology,
Wow.
is going to be born on the 21st of December this year.
Okay. Wow. Oh my gosh.
So we are all in this same ballpark, whether you're listening to Lee Harris, Richard Rudd, Cryon, Greg Braden, Dr. Zach Bush.
We're
You know,
all talking about the same truth, which is
yeah,
what I love. I love when it is yeah, to me it's so incredibly affirming. Yeah.
yeah. And even Dr. Jude Currivan, the brilliant cosmologist, you know, is saying, and they are all saying this is a complete, and Dr. David Clements, the theoretical physicist, this is a completely unique quantum leap in evolution for humanity that we have never experienced before in physicality.
Wow.
So,
It's
you know, and we're in it.
yes, yes. And so, and in this process, even though there's a date that they're giving, saying that people will be experiencing this on their own clock. Isn't that correct? Is that what you're saying?
Correct.
Yes.
Correct. Because from what I understand from, in fact, he said it, Archangel Raphael said, this is the first wave of beings who are going to kind of have this full change in biology.
Yeah.
December. And then, as you say, we will help others up in, you know, consecutive waves, as it were. So there's a lot, there's a lot. But that astrological configuration, which is operational from now until 2027, at its tightest point in on the 18th of July 2026, is what I spotted and thought that is an extraordinary period for humanity's evolution. And then it gradually starts to break up late 27 going into 28. So this is it. And that kind of links with, you know, all what all the other people say.
Hills. Okay.
Okay, so we're now going to get into more specific detail within these 12 months. And
Wonderful.
stop me if I'm just gibbering with jargon and you don't
Don't you dare
understand what I'm
stop. Keep
saying.
going.
So what I would look for with seismic activity is the planet Uranus, because that rules earthquakes and volcanoes. It's this eruptive energy, unexpected, sudden, radical, and it always signals what we have already outgrown.
Oh,
It's
oh,
higher
interesting.
mind. It's linked to the galactic beings. I think we're going to have a lot more contact with galactic beings. I don't know if you'd call angels galactic beings or whether that would be an insult. I'm not sure, but certainly more galactic beings. So even this month, we have a new moon on the 23rd. That new moon, so sun and moon together in Virgo, is square, very, very exactly, very tightly square to Uranus. So
Okay.
although it's just a regular, you think, oh, it's a boring old new moon in Virgo. No, it's not. No, it's not, because it's square to Uranus. So
Okay.
that is, I'd say, one small probability peak for some seismic activity, quite small. Quite
Okay.
soon after that, the 6th of September, we have Uranus, that planet, moving stationary direct in the heavens. Now, planets never obviously move backwards, they only ever move forwards, but so it's an optical illusion from Earth. But when planets appear to change direction, you know, you'll be familiar with Mercury retrograde, that kind of, when they appear to change direction, their symbolism is magnified. So several days either side of the 6th of September, that is quite a powerful day for seismic activity.
Interesting. Okay. Because Uranus will be direct. Got it. Okay.
Correct. It's moving, it's stopping. It's like a huge ship that in order to change direction, it has to stop and then move off in a different direction. So that's a noteworthy date. Then we have on the 7th of September, we have a total lunar eclipse. And eclipses often bring about permanent change as well. It's a total one, so that's quite strong as well. Then on actually pretty much on the day, within certainly 24 hours, of a solar eclipse, which is on the world point. And just to explain that, I don't want to keep this as simple as I can, but the world points are 0 of the cardinals within 2 degrees. So 0 degrees of Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn are what is known as world points. So if anybody personally has a planet 0 to 2 degrees of Aries, Cancer, Libra, Capricorn, they have the potential to use that planet on a public platform. You know, my Mercury is a Libra of Aries, so I speak and I write. It's the planet of communication, so I speak and write publicly. It's that kind of thing. So it throws events onto a bigger stage. So that solar eclipse on the 21st of September is within about 24 hours of the autumn equinox.
Okay.
And equinoxes and solstices are pretty powerful. Now, at an equinox or a solstice, the sun moves on to 0 degrees of a cardinal sign. So the equinox is reinforcing the solar eclipse. They are both reinforcing each other.
Oh.
Okay. So
And this is what date again? What was the
this
date?
is the solar eclipse is on the 21st of September. The autumn equinox is on the 22nd of September.
So right, one day apart. Okay.
Yeah, we're super close in time. So the other important thing to say is that all of this astrology I'm talking about is going to be most powerful when those outer planets are in the first couple of degrees of their sign, either 29 degrees of the previous sign or 1 to 2 degrees of their new sign.
Okay.
Because those cusps are the most powerful. They're known as the critical degrees. Once it gets beyond 2 degrees into, 3 degrees, 4 degrees, 5 degrees, it's not as strong on the public stage.
Okay.
So even though July 18th next year is when this configuration is at its most exact, by then the outer planets that I'm looking at have moved to 4 degrees.
So you said by July of next year,
yeah,
they've moved to 4 degrees. Okay.
4 degrees. So although on the one hand, this configuration is at its tightest geometrically,
Yes.
the outer planets have moved on to 4 degrees, each of them of their signs.
Which is no longer on that critical world degree.
For me, my humble point of view is they are most powerful when they are within the first 2 degrees of their sign, particularly if it's a cardinal sign.
Wow.
So the autumn equinox is very strong.
Okay.
Because the sun is moving on to 0 of Libra and exactly opposing Saturn, Neptune, and it's doing other things as well, which I won't baffle you with.
Okay.
Equally, the winter solstice is super strong because the sun moves on to 0 of Capricorn and Neptune is still right on that world point. It's actually at last degree of Pisces, but it's on that world point. and the other planets are still at those really strong degrees.
Okay. And this
So,
is, what is the date of that?
so that is the 21st of December.
Okay, so we've got three major potential areas of concentrated energy so far. One was that September, was it early September, September 6th, you said? And then
September 6th, give or take a few
21st.
days. Yeah. And then solar eclipse on the 21st of September. And then the next day, 22nd, is the autumn equinox.
Got it. Okay.
Right. When the outer planets, I'm going to get the giggles because I'm trying to simplify all this down, and I'm going to start to sound like a mad professor. So I'm trying as hard as I can. Okay. So the autumn equinox and the winter solstice, which is on the 21st of December, are still catching the outer planets in those very early couple of degrees.
Got it.
And although this configuration, which is unique, is at its tightest geometry on July 18th, because the outer planets have moved on to 4 degrees, each of their signs, okay, I personally, as a humble astrologer, feel that is not quite as strong.
Got it.
That's
okay.
my own personal view.
So the real power is coming in on these equinoxes, the 2 equinoxes you feel. Those are
but there's a lot more to come.
Ooh, okay.
Okay, a lot more to come. Because there's a full supermoon on the 7th of October. And when we have a supermoon, it means the moon is at its closest point to the Earth in its orbit. So it has a stronger pull on the tectonic plates.
Okay.
And that is within a week of Pluto moving stationary direct. So Pluto is the planet of power that comes from the underworld as well. Okay. Then we get into November, and November is very strong as well. On the 5th, you're going to regret asking me that, sorry. On the 5th, we have a full supermoon. So the moon is very close to the Earth in its orbit. And we have Uranus at 0 degrees of its sign, which is the planet of earthquakes. And it is exactly opposing Mars at 0 of Sagittarius. So whenever Mars and Uranus come into hard aspect, they are both linked to surges of activity. And I remember donkeys years ago, I went to a talk by a seismologist who was also an astrologer, and he'd done this huge research study, and he found that the greatest seismic activity happened when Mars and Uranus were in hard, difficult aspect, because they both want to kind of surge forwards, and one acts as a trigger on the other.
And that's November
5th.
November 5th. So I, of course, am very delighted to hear that that is after my big retreat in October.
Good. You can breathe. You can breathe. Because also in November, on the 20th, we have a new moon at 28 of Scorpio, which is pretty much exactly opposing Uranus again. So, it would have been a regular old new moon, but it's opposing the planet of earthquakes.
Okay.
Within 1 degree. So there's so much Uranian activity here, eruptive, sudden. On top of that,
so this is not typical, having this many, so this is an unusually eruptive time period in general.
Correct. Eruptive because so many of the lunations are aspecting Uranus, and also it's within the context of these 12,000-year cycles ending, these Yuga cycles ending, this unique configuration. It's all within cycles within cycles within cycles. So you've got to set the big context and come down to the lunations.
Okay.
So what's interesting during November is that Uranus it's backed into 29 degrees of Taurus, because they're going to be hovering around the end of their old degree and the very beginning of their new of their old sign and the very beginning of their new sign.
Okay.
So Uranus is backed up because all the outer planets are going to back up. They're going to retrograde through the winter months, northern hemisphere, into their previous signs, because this is like our rehearsal time this summer. This is our rehearsal of the new you, what's the new life going to be, rehearse, have taster sessions, and then you have a period of reflection and integration when all the outer planets are back up, reflect, integrate, and then we have a bigger launch next late spring, summer, I would say, but
Okay.
that's what I'm going to get to. Okay, so by November, Uranus will be at 29 degrees of its previous sign, which was Taurus. Neptune will be at 29 degrees of its previous sign, which is Pisces, all through November, both of them, all through that month. Now, the 29 degrees of any sign is known as the anoretic or the crisis degree.
Okay. It's
Okay.
that very last minute where they're like, oh, there's something I didn't say that I got to get out right now before I change signs. Okay.
I'm teaching you a lot of astrology in this thing. Okay, so when I did my analysis of Fukushima, which is in my video about Japan, exactly on the day of Fukushima, Uranus was at 29 degrees of Pisces and Neptune was at 29 degrees of Aquarius.
Oh, interesting.
So they were both at the crisis degree of those signs. And remember that these outer planets spend a long time, you know, Neptune spends 13, 14 years in a sign, Uranus spends 7 years in a sign. So it's very interesting. They were both at the crisis degrees of their sign at the very moment Fukushima happened.
Wow.
And that's in
Okay.
my Japan video. Okay,
Okay.
so that's November. So November is very strong as well. Then the winter solstice is very strong because the outer planets are still hovering around that world point.
Okay.
And then we go into February.
And
And
So
then
January is clear. There's no like hubbub happening in January.
I wouldn't go that far.
Okay. All right.
I would because we have some very strong stuff with, again, with the sun coming to conjunct Mars in a hard aspect to Uranus. That's on the 3rd of January. And again, on the 11th of January, the sun comes to pretty much exactly square Mars.
Got it. Okay.
And in fact, there's a 3-planet conjunction, the sun, Mars, and Venus, very, very tight together, 20 degrees, 21 degrees, 22 degrees. And where Venus is so interesting, where Venus is exactly on that degree was where we had an extremely difficult aspect on the 12th of January 2020, which kicked off the pandemic.
Oh,
It
wow.
was all about contraction and top-down control. Now you have Venus, rebirth of
Mm,
love,
very
on the same
interesting.
degree. And that degree has been activated at the beginning of 2020. A degree's become kind of hot or activated, but now it's going to be love.
That is phenomenal. That's good news. That's very good news. Do you know one thing that all of this activity makes me think of is that one of the things the angel said from the get-go is that there's going to be like a bunch of stuff happening at the same time. Like they kind of gave us all these ideas about what was coming. And again, all of these are potentials. Some things may shift because time is time. But you know, they talked about major political stuff, major economic stuff, you know, geologic stuff, all kinds of stuff. And they said, yeah, kind of everything in the same time period. And it just sounds like there's a ton of energy here. It makes sense that it would be like there, it's just like things going off here and there and here and there. And you know what I mean? It's like lots of really high concentrated energy days that could
Absolutely
manifest in a bunch of
eruptive.
different ways.
Eruptive. So
Eruptive.
Uranus is also the planet of the galactic beings, and I'm sure they are going to help. You know, it's the planet of awakening, it's the planet of the higher mind.
Yeah.
It's very much this sudden eruptive energy. So yeah, it can be very disruptive on the political stage, on the
Yeah.
financial markets, you know, all of that stuff. And
Yeah.
I haven't dug into looking at the astrocartography of the country because, you know, I'd be gone for days. So
Yeah. I think
physicists,
it's so good to think about it as we're thinking about this. Like, as we're hearing, like, oh my gosh, there's so much energy in just built up, right? So much potential coming is to recognize that in all of this, like, there's the potential for such positive change, you know, that, and I almost feel like, honestly, it feels like right now that we talk about like the world is slowly starting to kind of split apart, is that what is your experience going to be of all of these energies have as much positive potential as negative potential, you know, and where are we going to, how are we going to express it in our own lives? That I think that that I can hear each one of these things is like the potential for incredible blessings, you know?
amazing. New technology, new healing
Yes.
technologies. I think, you know, the light pouring onto the earth is extraordinary right now,
Yeah.
which, you know, we know we're going to be embodying more light. We're shifting towards the light body. We're losing density. I mean, it was beautiful stuff, you know, absolutely
Yeah.
beautiful stuff. I'm just talking about the kind of gritty,
Yes, for sure. For sure.
the
And it's
grit and the
important.
oyster that's
Yeah.
going to create the pearl, as it
And
were.
I love that, like one of my favorite bits from last Friday's message from the angels that I got was that they had said that a world that I can't remember the exact wording they said, but basically in a world that is closed to itself can't let any light in, and that you have to have a crack. There has to be an opening. And we're expecting this big flash of light. We have to have the cracking first to let the light in, which is so beautiful to think about it that way, that it is of service. And hopefully it'll be like the one that just happened where it's in the middle of, away from populated areas and all this. And that's the softening. That's where we're doing our meditations, and that's where we're putting our is soften, let the earth have her moment, let her heal, but in a way that softens the impact for the people and the beings and all types of beings, yeah, that live here. Yeah, but okay, so I keep on going. This is
no, not at all. No, it's all great stuff. And as I understand it, this isn't just an evolutionary leap for humanity and the Earth. It's the entire galaxy.
yes, yeah,
Entire galaxy. Just so exciting.
yeah.
Anyway, we then get into February, which is a real hot spot, because on the 17th of February, we have a solar eclipse, and the sun and moon, which are always together at a new moon or a solar eclipse, are very, very, almost exactly square to Uranus again.
Oh, wow.
And 3 days later, we have the exact to the minute conjunction of Saturn and Neptune
Oh
to the
my
minute
goodness.
on the 20th of February next year.
Okay.
It's a
Okay.
one hit wonder. So, and it won't happen again. It's literally 20th of February. They both hit 0 degrees 44 minutes. And so
Wow.
holding hands, we kind of enter a whole new world. Okay, so good. Enter a whole new world of blank fat canvas, and what are we going to create that's amazing? But the fact there's a solar eclipse just 3 days before that is very strong.
Wow. And so Saturn, Neptune together in conjunction, given that that's sort of really featured in that is going to bring forward what types of how does that manifest?
Okay, so it's making real the dream.
Okay. Oh, wow.
And it's pure potentiality. That's the degree of pure potentiality.
Okay.
So having had, because they're both in Aries right now,
Okay.
hovering around that degree, and they've come within about 13 minutes of that degree very recently, but not exact. So that's why this is our rehearsal time this summer,
Okay.
our
Yes.
reflection time through the winter, Northern Hemisphere, and then, okay, for real, we are going to be launched.
And this is why in our last conversation, you thought that the flash of light might happen in February is because of this specific aspect, which makes sense. So so Neptune is going to be the dream, and Saturn is going to bring it into the physical. So that's
Absolutely perfect.
okay.
Yeah, well
Okay.
done. Yeah, you're
Okay.
absolutely reading the astrology perfectly. So and Saturn gets a bad rap because it's very connected to the 3D and tangibility and control and blah blah blah. But you've got to kind of anchor the dream.
Yeah.
Saturn also makes it realistic and pragmatic and builds for the long term.
Love it.
So this summer, let us start to dream, imagine, envisage, not just for our own individual lives, but what do we want to do collectively to make this
Yeah.
the most beautiful, loving, abundant new earth for every living being?
Yes.
You know,
Yes.
that's our task. So at least we're getting this rehearsal time.
I love it.
So that's February. So February is super strong. And then we have this spring equinox, Aries equinox on the 20th of March next year. And that's strong in that the sun is still conjunct Neptune, which is at 1 degree of its sign. But by then, Saturn has moved on to 4 degrees of its sign. Pluto's at 5 degrees of its sign. So I would say that isn't quite as strong as the autumn equinox and the winter solstice this year.
Got it. Okay.
Then we have this exact configuration, 18th of July. So it's Neptune 4 degrees of Aries, Uranus 4 degrees of Gemini, Pluto 4 degrees of Aquarius. And we've also got Jupiter actually at 4 degrees of Leo. So that is at its most exact. And there's this incredible blossoming from way back from 577 BC. Also, the last seed point we had with Pluto Uranus was the 60s with the hippie era, with love and peace, and they didn't want war and they wanted to live in community, you know. So this is a blossoming of that seed point too. So there's so
Oh,
many seed points historically that are coming to blossom
wow.
this year, next year, and to some extent in 2027. So this is beautiful. And by then, by the 18th of July, the north node has moved on to zero of Pisces. And Pisces, I see zero of Pisces almost as Christ consciousness energy.
Oh, wow.
In fact,
Yeah.
the north node is in Pisces already, and I see that as a real blossoming of Christ consciousness energy
Wow.
at the same time. So by even so the another very big thing I shouldn't miss is at the end of April, 26th of April, Uranus will finally move fully into Gemini until 2033.
Okay.
So it's got an 84-year orbit. So that's a big deal. So by the end of April, all of the outer planets have had their rehearsal and they've backtracked to sort of, oh, how well did that go? How well did that
Yes.
go? And now, boom, from the end of April, they're all fully in their new
In their new
signs.
site. Okay. Wow. Okay.
So end of April, super strong. Uranus becomes conjunct the dwarf planet Sedna exactly in May, and that's kind of an ignition of metamorphosis as well. Then
Okay.
we have this exact thing in July. And then we have actually a beautiful 12th of August. We have a beautiful total solar eclipse, which is very strong, with a beautiful grand trine in air, which is kind of very beneficial and benevolent, involving Venus, all
Wow.
5 degrees with Uranus, Pluto, and Venus. So my sense is the next 12 months are absolutely jam packed with extraordinary
Wow.
energy.
You know,
And the,
a visual I just got was that it's like it's be a little bit like being in the middle of a street performance. And where when you're in the center of it, it just feels like chaos and there's people moving everywhere and costumes and dancers and but then if you pull back and go up from above and you look down on it, you see the pattern of the dance. And then there's moments where this person comes into foreground or this person, like different players, Uranus and Neptune and all the different things are going to come in and be in the center, but there's an organization to the whole structure that it when you look at it from above, it feels calm and orchestrated and divine and full of potential and creation. But when we're down here in the thick of it, it's going to feel like, what was that? You know what I mean? Like, what's happening here? We won't see the big picture. We can't unless you're looking at it this way, right? Unless you're looking at it from the stars, seeing the pattern that's showing up and recognizing that there will be a purpose to all of it, that each of the players that it's almost like Sedna and all the different things that have shown up right now, it's like coming in to help to bring this about. Pretty amazing.
yeah, absolutely beautiful. And it's so interesting, Anne, that traditionally, many spiritual leaders have been talking about 2032 as the new golden age, but equally, a lot of people have been saying recently, no, we're ahead of schedule.
Yes. Yeah, the angels said that. The angels told us that. They said that we have done better than expected and that we've reached a tipping point basically, which is amazing.
Which
Yeah.
is fabulous. And so I saw
Mhm.
this unique configuration that will start to break up late 27 and 20 into 28. And I think, okay, it's these 3 years, 25, 26, 27, with 25 being the most turbulent energy because we've still got the old breaking down
Which year is the most turbulent?
this
20
year.
this year, 20. Okay.
We're going to see so much of the old collapsing, particularly the next few months, and of
Yeah.
course that will continue to happen. But the big year of kind of endings, beginnings is this year as we get into sort of summer next year, because all the outer planets are now in their new signs and won't be zigzagging. It
Nice.
feels more settled. It feels more
Yes.
settled. So
We won't know
um,
what to do with ourselves.
we just play. We can just play. But also when other people, Richard Rudd saying, 2027, and when the angels said the next 12 months, essentially,
Yeah.
that was really confirming, okay, and also this whole gestation period of the new galactic human, new galactic,
Yes.
all of this is giving real validation to the focus of this year, next year, I think principally.
I think in the future we're going to have these conversations. We're going to be like, "So how's it going, Pam?" You're like, "It's good. How are you?" Like, "Oh, things are good." Like nothing's happening. Everything's the same. It's good. It's stable.
Great to know you on now. Yeah, yeah, absolutely. So it's, I hope, even though I'm talking about, turbulence with Uranus, it's also exciting. Anxiety and excitement are two sides of the same coin. It's
Yes.
that
Yeah.
zuzzy energy. I mean, when I
Yeah.
was preparing for this conversation, I was feeling really, really zuzzy and excited. So try and get excited rather than, oh my God.
Yes, yes, I so agree. And I think, and it isn't, I always try to remind people when I'm talking about some of these events that are coming, that the angels have said again and again, like the goal for us is to continue to invest in our lives. And like we can't anticipate what's coming, we can't predict it to a T. We don't know. And the world is a huge place. Like there was this massive thing that happened in Kamchatka. I'm not going to pronounce it correctly, but that huge 8 point whatever earthquake. And how many people felt it? How many did you feel it in your home? Not at all. So it's that idea that the world is a very big place and that not everything happens everywhere, that we are meant to continue to travel, do your things, go, like if you want to, have a baby, have a baby. If you want to go to school, like do what you want to do and like follow your joy. And more than ever, it is that thing where all of these incredible energies could manifest such blessings in our lives. But it's also like the things that need to fall away need to fall away. They got to fall away. And so we
Yeah.
just have to try to cultivate non-attachment to the things that fall away.
Absolutely. And the more we can stay in that joy, in that love, in that peace, in that bliss, in that still,
Yes.
I personally feel, and I think the angels have said this too, and that we are more bubble wrapped from the worst excesses.
Yes.
Whatever's
Yeah.
going to happen, no guarantee there, but in general, if you're in high frequency,
Yeah.
you're going to be in a better place because that's what you're broadcasting to the world, and
Totally.
that's what will reflect back to you in your reality. Whereas if you're sort of, oh my God, in fear,
Yeah.
that's going to be your reality. It's
Yeah.
a
And they have
mirror.
said that that is by maintaining that high vibration, that is one of the best things we can do in terms of trying to yeah, to have a better experience. And I know it's like we don't want to spiritually bypass. They never say like ignore the feeling because you can't. So it is that idea of have our moment of grief. Like if something does happen that it really affects you, grieve it, but grieve it with intention and then let it pass, right? Go through the grief process and then focus on the phoenix rising from the ashes. But the fear thing, there's people have had like the angels have come through with some incredible messages on fear, which I will link below this, where I have a couple videos from them where they gave incredible guidance and insight on how to cope with fear that comes up. Because I really think in this, yes, fear is possible, but there is equal potential for us to feel like what you're talking, feel giddy and excited about the potential of what we're moving into, and it's just like we go through hard things. We choose as humans to go through hard things because we know it's going to lead to something better. I am that person that when I go on a walk, I always go the uphill way first. You know what I mean? I always go in the direction where I'm gonna do the hard part first and then get to the end where I get to go downhill. And yeah, I feel like it's so helpful to look forward to the good things that are coming, which are gonna be amazing, amazing,
And
right?
recreate it,
Yeah,
recreate it. Because I think we're
yeah,
so used to, and often says, we're so used to giving away our power to external authority. And I know the angels have talked about that too. But, don't even give your power away to the planets either, or to
yeah,
me, or to, because know that they are simply energy, that you actually have, you have all of this within you. You have the whole
yeah,
planetary system within you. It is just different. They represent different resonances of consciousness with which you're co-creating.
yeah,
It's a particular modeling clay set for this period in time. So what are you going to
yes,
create with it?
yeah. So what do you think, like thinking about the new future, like what are you most for you personally, like when you think about it, like what gets you excited about it?
Oh, I just think we are going to live in a state, and my best template, Anne, I think, is ancient Lemuria.
Oh, interesting. Okay, so what does that mean for you, like when you think
Okay,
of it?
so I think almost for me, the best example we have was ancient Lemuria, because as I understand it, they lived in a state of oneness. They
Yeah,
never, they didn't kill to eat. They respected every living being. They were in harmony with all of nature. They could hear the trees speaking, the birds speaking. They didn't eat very much. In fact, I think they connected to Earth mainly on a silver thread, and they lived in the light body for much of the time, but they're very connected to dolphin energy, whale energy, and they had incredible healing abilities. And they built they're crystal healing temples, usually on the top of mountains,
Mm.
which were just, you know, kind of wooden poles with a bit of canvas, but studded with crystals, because they
Wow.
knew the top of mountains had the greatest energy vortices to
Oh,
magnify the healing ability. So I think we're going to, you know, going to move around with much more telepathy. You're going to be able to read each other's energy field, and nobody will be able to lie because you
yeah.
see it.
Yeah.
Yeah. You know, going to be able to see it really easily. We're going to be able to feel great compassion more than we ever have because we can read each other's energy field. Healing abilities, I think, will go through the roof.
Yeah.
So all of that psychic sensitivity stuff, and I can see all of nature, and I feel it on my walks, because every morning when I go out on my non-negotiable walks in any weather, I say, universe, show me some magic today.
Mm.
And I often feel that you know, all of nature is just humming with life force,
Yeah.
humming with this new life force,
Yeah.
higher octave life force ready to come through.
Yeah.
So it's living in nature, living in abundance, nobody hungry. And that may seem like, you know, I live in la la land, and
Which sounds nice.
truly think it's up to humanity. It's
Yeah.
up to us to create that. It's not going to be given to us on a plate.
Yeah.
Gone around the hamster wheel for hundreds of thousands of years. We
Mhm.
now have the opportunity to break out of the tram tracks because of all these cosmic energies coming in and do it differently.
Yeah, I so agree. And it's so interesting. I feel like the potentials for some of those experiences are here now. And it is like just the when we give ourselves the opportunity to be in enough stillness, to feel it and experience it. And that for me, that doesn't necessarily mean like certainly being in meditation opens you up to it. But I noticed like even so the other day I had some guys coming to my house to help me with gardening. And I was gonna order them pizza, and I found myself and I just wondering, like, I wonder what their favorite pizza is, and in comes the answer, Hawaiian. They like Hawaiian pizza, and so but of course I asked them, and sure enough, oh yeah, we like Hawaiian pizza. But it was in that moment I had been in the garden, I had been peaceful. It was that almost like there's this ongoing dialogue that's happening in terms of all things. It's like that there's that sort of universal. And is it as mundane as like what kind of pizza someone likes? Yeah, it like every question matters, but it's almost like as we tune in and get quiet and slow down, those inner conversations, it's like we're no longer having a conversation just with ourselves. I guess that's what I'm trying to say is the answers can come in, not when and then when you and I wasn't trying to channel in that moment. It just the answer was just I guess I being still, being quiet, being in a place where I was grounded, being in a place, the answer just floats in. And it's like and I feel like that context of connecting to the world at large, that there can be moments where when you get still, that you could start to almost feel like when the leaves rustle, you start to feel what it is to be a leaf. When you hear like when you it's like you start your it's like you start to expand your consciousness in the moments of stillness. That like what is unity really going to feel like? I think we can have, as the angels even said, we can have glimmers of it now and expand those glimmers, which is it's exciting. It's exciting to feel like we can start to participate now.
Yeah, 100%. And also, if you're able to get into a physical group, you know,
Yeah.
online groups are great as well. You do 10 tons with that, Anne. But if it can also be a physical group where you can get together and all do something, you know, you can get an allotment and all grow vegetables together and share the vegetables. It can be as simple
Yes.
as that. But a
Yeah.
lot of groups are doing this all over the world. They're buying land, they're growing food, they're sharing. To get back to that sense, it's almost like the hippies and, you know, the communes then being rebirthed at a higher octave.
Yes. Yeah. Which, like you were saying, is that these seed points now culminating again. So it's like the ideas being introduced and now we're bringing them full circle.
Yeah.
Super amazing. Super amazing.
So all of those dates and times I've shared are really just probability points where it is more likely
Yeah.
we're going to
Yeah.
have this kind of thing. But it is an action-packed 12 months. There's no doubt about it.
Wow, wow, wow. And I know it's been interesting. So I have been, and yeah, the angels coming forward and saying, because if they're talking about the earth stuff, the other thing they did say was that everything's happening at the same time. So that also de facto means all these other things, which to me, I see all those different energies and I say, yep, okay. It's going to be it's a period full of opportunity. So I had a friend once talk about that. Like when there's great change, it's like it creates holes in the fence. Whatever fence was in front of you, there's now holes in the fence and you can break through. So it's like, I think it would be interesting to think about our own lives. Like, what do we want? What do we want to change in our lives? Like, what do we want to have? Yeah, what new energies do we want to bring in? And to start to be very conscious and purposeful about that, about trying to use these energies for our own expansion in ways that are, for the highest and best for ourselves and for others, that kind of stuff. But yeah, yeah, amazing
That's
to think about.
so important, Anne. And before every, before this conversation that we have, before any video I do, any important interaction, I'll always say that let this be for my highest good, the highest good, in this case of Anne and I, highest good of all, highest good of the earth. I always say that. And I've got a kind of rolling mantra that I suggest for the nightly meditation, which is we're welcoming in an ever expanding consciousness of love.
Love it. I love that. That's
And
beautiful.
if you just kind of keep that rolling, but also use this rehearsal time, as I call it, to really step into who you think the future you could be.
Yes.
And I'm very well aware a lot of relationships are coming to an end right now. Marriages, partnerships, friendships. I went through some deep grief about 10 days ago with
Oh,
losing, a couple of friends in my life for various reasons. Sometimes people move away or whatever. Deep grief because I love them dearly, but I know it had to be in,
mm,
and we may have a sense of vacuum or void through
mm.
these autumn and winter months. This is happening, and for so many people, there's a whole kind of shaking up of so many friendships, romances, marriages. I mean, it's just everywhere. It's happening for me too. Big group of
Really?
friends. Yeah, it just everybody's going through it because we really are fine tuning our soul tribe to move forwards. We really truly are, and so that's fabulous.
Wow.
It's
So that was one of the exact phrases that came through. I had this fab friend of mine introduce me to this one woman who does a really unique form of card reading. And I'm always game to try something new. I was really curious. And one of the exact phrases she said was like, you were leaving behind certain things and moving to, like, it's like the refining of your soul tribe.
yeah, yeah.
Wow.
Yeah,
Wow.
100%. And we're all going through it in different ways. It's everywhere. So, and it's the bigger zeitgeist of endings and beginnings.
Wow. I love
That I've been
it.
sort of banging on about for forever. So so yeah. So it's just reflecting the energy of the time and all this turbulence and churn, and we're getting ourselves sorted out to this. If there's anything that isn't up to our frequency, we have to leave it behind. We have to,
Wow.
however dear those people are to us, like siblings, or we've still got to go ahead. If finding those frequency matches, otherwise it's just not going to work.
Yeah, I think they always say that in terms of like, if you have children, it's like, who are your children's friends? And it's incredibly important. But I think it doesn't end in childhood. It's like if we surround ourselves with the people that we want to become, it can be incredibly helpful. Or even just people who are embodying a similar energy that we admire or that we see in ourselves when we're at our best, all of that. Yeah, that I think it
100%.
is.
So we're not
Yeah.
we're not being the rescuer, we're not propping people up, etc. So
Yeah. And I wonder with some of that is as we're going through that, are we leaving behind old patterns? Is some of the leaving behind old people, is it leaving behind old patterns? Because
yeah,
I've noticed that for myself too, is that have had some friendships that are in the process of, I would say, reshaping because I became aware as I went through my own healing journey. I'm like, oh my gosh, I am bringing some of my baggage into this friendship. I have some mother issues that I've been working out here. I didn't even see it. And now I see it. And now I feel the friendship it's morphing. It's got to adapt because I'm changing.
yeah. And I found that I was the rescuer in many
Yes.
friendships.
Yes. Is that right? Okay.
Yeah, yeah. So that just, because people think, oh, Pam's always strong and independent and, clear views and blah, blah, blah. So a couple of friendships have faded away because I don't want to be the rescuer.
Yes.
Be
I
honest.
wonder if this is one of the reasons why I feel such a kinship with you and why I feel so easy is that I have that, like my wounding from childhood, from infancy. And it came in, actually, I had specific dreams that as I was coming into the womb, I saw there was an aspect of my mom that where she needed help. And I had the dream showing me that I'm coming in as basically unborn yet, think, oh my gosh, how do I help her? And
Yeah.
that set the imprint of like needing to rescue. So interesting that you have the same exact conditioning. Yeah.
Absolutely. Well, I rescued the whole family actually from about the age of 3, but that's another long
Oh
story.
my
So,
gosh.
so
Oh my
yeah,
gosh.
so we're done with that. We're not going to do that
Yeah,
anymore. We're going to
yeah, I
stop.
feel the same way. Same thing as I feel friendships shifting in that dynamic when you no longer hold your end of the rope and the rope falls down, it's like, okay, well, where are we now? Are we gonna stay friends, or what are we gonna do together? Yeah.
Yes, much more equal. So it's great. It's super exciting where we're going. And no, we're all in it together,
Yeah.
and we're all experiencing that because there's this kind of cocoon chrysalis period. And then we have the launch. I'd say late spring, summer next year, we're going to have this much greater feeling. Okay, we've now got our feet on the ground. It
Yeah.
isn't quite as turbulent. We can now move fully forwards into infinity with our evolution. But this is, from my humble point of view, I see these 3 years, 25, 26, 27, as the most concentrated period of accelerated evolution that we have, I think, possibly ever gone through. That's why it's exciting. And we're in it. We're in it.
Yeah.
We're
Yeah.
alive now to witness it. But don't forget your role as a co-creator, as a
Yeah.
loving co-creator.
Yeah. Wow. It's interesting. I had a personal reading just recently when I was at an event, and it was really fun. A person did a great card reading for me. And one of the things that came up, and it came up actually twice recently, is that I'm about to have a really big change in my life of some sort. And so, but I just think about all these energies and I'm like, okay, I love it. To me, that's exciting. I'm like, I wonder what part of my life, what area, I don't know. We'll see. I'll report back.
Yeah, cultivate that feeling of excitement rather than apprehension.
Yeah, yeah, yeah.
You
Super
know,
exciting.
this is our only rehearsal. We're not going to have another rehearsal. We're in it.
Oh my
We're
gosh.
not going to have a dress rehearsal.
Yeah, this is it.
So I hope I've been kind of comprehensible, and I hope it.
Absolutely. And just so much fun. I think but one of my favorite things about our conversation is you laughing, trying to get everything in too.
Try and keep it so, because people listening to this may have no idea about astrology and they're going to think I'm a complete mad woman. But I try to make it as kind of accessible as I could.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I can tell you put a lot of work into preparing for the conversation. I'm so grateful. I think it'll be really, really of service to people. And I just absolutely loved it. So thank you so much,
And you
Pam.
you did really well because you kept over the jumps. You were with me.
Yes, yes. I'm well practiced. I listen to your videos. I know Pam speak.
It was great. I really loved it, Anne. And these sharings are part of New Earth. These
Yeah,
collaborations are part of New Earth. These
yeah,
these frequency matches that we're using to connect. It's beautiful, and these relationships are going to really blossom and create more light on the web all around the Earth. That's getting stronger in every moment. I mean, that's
yeah,
what these conversations are all about.
yeah. Well, I can hardly wait to see what we're talking about next quarter. So
God
thank you
bless
so
you,
much,
Anne.
Pam. And we'll be getting this, I said we'll be publishing the video very quickly and then on both of our channels. And so much love to you. So many thanks. And I cannot wait, like I said, till next time.
So much love to you, Anne, and to everybody out there. Loads of love. Bye for now.